yeah, I have that whole contract out and I'm like, my notes and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta figure out just what's gotta get in. So I want
Well, the
to.
ones, we gotta answer those list of questions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So if you're all set with your.
Okay,
Yeah, that takes thinking power. Those are always,
well, we will call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Any changes or additions to the agenda?
Did you put on there to establish the reserve accounts?
Yeah, we will. So established reserve accounts will be 13 or 12A because we got 13. And we're gonna move the Parks Commission from number 8 to between 4 and 5 so that this gentleman can go back to work. John. Okay, our meeting minutes from April 28th.
yeah, go ahead.
I move to accept the minutes.
I just want to make a comment that I made minor edits to my comments. There's reference under my comments under our trustee records is reference the Department of State grant. That grant is for the zoning update project, not the comprehensive plan. So you've always got my comments.
Okay.
Otherwise, I approve. I mean, second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our abstract number 23 dated today in the amount of $66,817.17.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Department, we have DPW.
Yep, I just have the 3 summer help hires. The Charles Lorraine, Connor Malky, and David Gaffner. That I would like to bring in as summer help.
So move.
Second.
That would be done with our pay that we have
Yep.
established for them and for the
Budget.
period of time that's allowed by civil service. for
13
them to
weeks.
be.
The last one, David Gaffner, will be a little bit shorter. He drives one of the school buses for FM, so he'll come middle to late June. So
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That's it?
that's it for me.
Okay. So we will go to the Parks Commission.
Morning.
Morning. Morning.
I should have printed more of these, but.
Sorry, we can share.
All right, is this your,
Yeah, I have it. I have it shared with you as well.
if anybody needs one, I'll share with.
I think. Okay.
So, I don't know. Thank you, everybody. I was here, I think it was March 12th or so, was sort of an initial proposal to get moving. So, since that initial proposal, I've met with a few people. I've made a lot of phone calls, putting together, formulating exactly how to execute this. The weather has not been what I would call cooperative or it's definitely delayed. So a few of the dates that I put in here as far as timeline will likely get pushed back a little bit. But what I ultimately came up with was sort of a phased development plan. So just as a recap, we have Duguid Park over on the eastern side of the village in Golden Park, which is frequented by mountain bikers from across the region. Some of them ride that in conjunction with riding Green Lake. Some of them come just to ride that. The CNY Sharks, which is a youth mountain bike team, uses that park pretty often as well. The trails were constructed, well, before I got back into riding, so probably 10 years ago or so with Derek. And there are some things that are in need of update. So in the Parks Master Plan, it actually does have language for the inclusion of Skills Park. Skills Park is an area where cyclists can improve their skills, and there really isn't anything like it in this area. In talking with Ken Crane, who does a lot of work at Morgan Hill State Park and a lot of the newer trails that are going in there, he's been very involved with. Those trails have some bigger jumps, some bigger berms, and something like Dugwood would really serve a great purpose of allowing riders to improve their skills in order to go to something like a bike park or like Morgan Hill, where it has some trails that are a little bit more intermediate level. So I spoke also with a man named Jeremy Manning, who was on the town board for the town, and I want to say Caroga, but I might be wrong, in the southern Adirondacks, where Wheelerville State Forest is located. And he was directly involved, spearheaded the building of trails out there, and has noticed one of the things that he pointed out was the economic impact that it had on the area, the number of cars with bike racks that were all of a sudden frequenting local businesses. And it was a presence that was known, and it's a place that people make a trip out to. I do think that even though Dugwood will never be as big as Wheelerville, because we simply don't have the area or the elevation, it will draw people in, because I think it will offer something very unique. So I figured that the best way to do it was sort of in a phased plan. I decided to do initially 3 phases. Phase 1 would be the drop progression. So drops are a feature that starts at a higher elevation, finishes at a lower elevation. I've scoped out one potential area. I'll be meeting later this week with someone just to kind of confirm that. I do have that marked out on a map. If you've been in Dugwood and you know where the lean-to is, it's just to the west of the lean-to, is where the terrain I've kind of spec'd out for that. I've talked with members of CNY Dirt regarding the funding and building of these features. They would be installed with volunteers. That would be part of phase 1. Phase 2 would be a renovation of the pump track. So in mountain biking, a pump track is a series we call rollers and berms. So rollers are undulating terrain, and berms are, if you ever see a racetrack, you notice that the sides are curved, which allows you to carry momentum through a curve. The idea in a pump track is you can actually carry momentum without pedaling. So it's a skills enhancer. The problem with the current pump track is through erosion and the way that it was initially constructed, there's some areas that are a little too long, a little too flat. And the rollers that were once nice and rolly do need a little bit of resculpting in order for that to be improved. So that would be a part of phase 2, along with the addition of several berms along what are some off-camber turns. So there's a couple of tight turns in the existing trail that slope away from you as you're riding around it. When you get slick weather, you can lose your footing going through those, and you could slide out. Ask me how I know. So what I'd like to do is build up those berms. There is a picture of a berm on the 3rd page, or at least a rider going through a berm. That would definitely improve the experience of those lower trails, just because it would make them safer, it would make them more fun. Both the berm track and both the pump track and the berms would require some equipment, which is why I put those together in phase 2, because we're gonna have to sculpt the land a little bit, and doing those with shovels would be a lot. So I would get that in through volunteers. There are volunteers that own heavy equipment through their businesses that have been doing the work down at Morgan Hill. We had talked about someone that we know through the Parks Commission that might be able to donate some time and an operator for that. So pending approval, I'll seek that out. That would be no cost to the village. And then phase 3 would be a bit of an improvement to the entire area. I think that there's some trails that could be a little bit better utilized. And I think there's some land where we could, when Derek built this, he definitely tried to pack a lot of trails into a very small area. But now that it's been established a little bit and ridden, I think there's some ways we can improve that. And I would like to do that through grant money, to hire a professional trail builder that would scope the area out, that would conduct the building of the trail, and then would train local volunteers to maintain the trail in perpetuity. So I've looked a little bit into some of the grants. I have to look further into that, but that phase would be at least a year out. I would have to apply for the grants, receive them, get somebody in. So that's more of a long-term thing. But the ones that I do think the timeline they could be completed by the fall would be the drop progression and then the resculpting of the existing pump track and the addition of several new berms that would go on some of those flat turn areas. So that's sort of the 35,000-foot overview. I'd be more than happy to answer some questions, give you a moment to look through it. I probably could have given you a few more moments, but
Okay.
would have been nice.
Thank you for your explanation.
Thank-
I mean, it was good. Go ahead, Ed.
Bankers, are they all left or are they some are like,
The berms.
yeah, when you bank?
So on the pump track, it would be, there's one on either end. So generally speaking, and this is something I learned through meeting with some people, pump tracks are typically designed to be ridden one direction. The direction I had been riding it was apparently wrong. So in that case, those would be left, and the other ones would also typically be left if you're going downhill. If you were riding the trails at Dugan are not one directional trails. There are places where those exist. We don't have any here. Just to give you some perspective too on the area, within 25 miles of Syracuse, there's really only about 4 established, 5 if you kind of lump Duguid and Green Lakes together. There's Duguid and Green Lakes, which of course are right here. There is to the south, there's Morgan Hill and Highland Forest. Morgan Hill is a little bit more. They're doing a lot of renovation work at Highland Forest. Highland Forest was really popular about 20 years ago. It's coming back. Morgan Hill is state forest that they've been doing a lot of work. CNY Dirt has been doing a lot of work improving trails there. And then over toward the west, there's Split Rock, which is privately owned. That was there was a quarry. They used to do some munitions stuff there, I think.
Yeah, back in World War I.
Yeah, and when that went up for sale, it was a bunch of mountain bikers that glommed together and bought it and opened it up for public use. So being that it's not something that's in fact, I think this is the only one that's village owned. It's a really unique opportunity, and it's a wonderful thing that we have here for local residents as well as people coming.
Well, I'm thinking about a right. Coming around on the right, left is easy. For burn, for the slope, you're talking about.
Oh, well, it would be I guess I don't quite follow. Most people that would be riding it would be turning to the left because it's at
That's what I want.
it's at a hairpin here, and then it would be built up against the back of the hairpin. And you're not riding these trails. There would never be riders crossing one over the other. When biking etiquette, when you see someone coming the other way in the trail, someone would stop and step to the side. It's not, people are, unless they're going very slowly on a wide enough trail and they're getting out of one another. So when someone is moving, they're not trying to race.
That's good.
It's called single track. So the maintenance trail that goes by the spring houses is what we would call double track, meaning that 2 riders could very easily go opposite directions. The stuff in mountain biking that is more technical is called single track, and it's only wide enough for one rider to go at a time. So there's a right of way.
Would you mind talking a bit about the number of trees that need to come down for
Yeah,
beginning
so
of phase 1?
This certainly goes hand in hand. Parks Commission has been working on removal of dead trees at Duguid. Mark and I, and Mark a little, because he's met with some people that I haven't. We've well, I'll just tip it over to you at this point.
So you guys discussed about a month ago about the amount of trees that are too good. Duguid has probably 80 to 100 standing dead trees that are close to the trail. So I have some good news and some bad news in that from last time you met, the price has dropped through competitive bidding. You had said if you go out and get 3 bids, the price is now $50 a tree. Before it was 100. So that's the good news. Bad news is there's still a lot of trees to be cut, and that's a lot of money. So I apologize for that. I went through and I got quotes from 3 different people. We the Parks Commission recommends spending $4,000 of our budget. We don't want to expend the total amount of money, so we can do some other projects. So we're recommending spending $4,000 of our budget. Which, if you look at quote, it's $50 a tree. So if there's 100 trees to come down, that's $10,000. Or no, yeah, $5,000.
It was 100. but you
Yeah,
had-
yeah, thank you. So we would do it in three phases. They would go through and remove the dangerous trees first, and then the hazardous trees, and then the potential risk, the trees that were. And currently, there's trails that are leaning across the trail, as well as ones that are about to fall. So if we did this, it would be an improvement to the park for the trails for probably about 15 years. We'd be good shape. You know, you could still have one that uproots, but we're gonna get rid of most of the hazards. And we don't want it to fall on people that are traveling. It's probably one of the most popular trail or parks now, the dog park, the bikes, and just people walking. So it's beautiful. We don't want anyone to get hurt with a falling tree or unexpected tree in the way. So
It also lowers the chance of having a vigilante tree remover. Someone who's trying to do the right thing by moving a tree out of the way or cutting a tree and, shouldn't
Right,
really
is
be.
Because when the trees go down, nobody knows until they're biking, and
Mhm.
then it's in the way, and they're like, let's just go move it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move then to the 3 quotes that we have. I met with Adam Argento with Timberworks. He came up and helped us place the tree, ribbons on the trees. That was before we had to get 3 bids.
And we ran out of ribbon.
And we ran out of that many trees. He brought a big spool when John drove how many trees need to be removed. And so there's, 100 trees that probably have to be removed. He's quoting $50 a tree, up to $4,000. Lime kiln lemon and trimming is also $50 a tree. He is from Manlius and he used the park as a rider as he grew up. So he's vested in the park and would like to give back an additional removal of trees where the pump track is and where the technical skills park would be. There's approximately at least 20 trees that have to be removed in that area. So he would be donating that money. So I will put out that 4,000 will cut down 80 trees 4,000 will cut down 80 trees. With this additional 20, we can have majority of the trees cut down and do a good park. We won't have to come back and get more funding, because at $80 or at 4,000, we still have like 20 trees that need to be dropped.
And Mark, am I correct in that he also said that should any tree come down in the future, he would take care of that gratis?
Right. And so he does it with his father. His father is the CNY Sharks head coach. So he's riding the trails all the time. So he'll be aware probably before anyone else knows that there's a tree down. So they have the ability to go in and clean it up almost immediately. So there's that part. And then Walker Tree Care was $300 a tree. Basically, they weren't interested, but I did throw a number out there. With that, I'd like to throw it out for questions.
I think it's pretty, we could have them. If they do a donation, do they have to do anything? Do we have to do anything, Laurie, or we can just accept that kind of a bid for the donation, or? As a donor, they don't have to do anything, right? They're already,
Nothing to show, no, right, that'd be okay.
so we have,
Part of the bid submission.
right, we have 3 quotes. 2 of them are the same price. One is obviously a lot higher, but one has the caveat of having a donation, so we can accept that bid without any further ado, right? With
Yeah, so essentially he's doing 100 trees for $4,000. He's doing it for $40 a tree. That's why, essentially
That's how you-
what it works
yeah.
out to.
But what I heard also, which I think is a great idea, and we could limit it to just an annual experience, is that he would be this lemon and trimming outfit would be the on-call arborist for any unexpected down trees, due to a storm event. So that we have somebody on call for the rest of the season. And we don't have to then, get free bids and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
for
one
the
tree
season.
would be a lot less, so wouldn't have to go through the. three,
Yeah,
but-
well,
perhaps, but it's- but it's-
familiar with the area,
Right,
familiar with-
no,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
right, you're
disagreeing with you, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
but-
we wouldn't have to go with that step anyway.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to hire?
I'm gonna move to hire Lemon and Trimmin, for the, bid quote that they gave us, and I would include this, I don't know what to call them, our arborists for Do Good Park, for the season of 2025, riding season of 2025, to care for any unexpected fallen trees. Does that make sense?
I second that.
Pardon me?
I second,
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
just for the public, I wanted to make a point of clarification, because we've been talking a lot about trees, which is a wonderful thing, and this is great, because the Parks Commission are the ones who overlook. We have 19 parks, so we have a lot of trees in our parks. So when we have talked most recently about our trees and put money in our budget for our trees, those trees are not park trees. Those trees are going to be street trees. We did not evaluate park trees. The inventory only covered our street trees.
That's correct.
okay.
Thanks, Mark.
And then we've talked to John before, did we, I don't know that we gave him a real formal go ahead to
We haven't
proceed
given
with
the
this
full
project,
formal
so.
go-ahead. We basically wanted more
I
information
would-
on where we're
Now
going.
that we have more information, are we ready to make a motion to have him proceed?
I
or
would
do you
really
need
love to have a
something
little
more?
time to dig into what you presented us, if you know what I mean, and I apologize, because you just
Yeah.
gave it to us last minute, and I'm sorry, that's not how I like to work. And I think you understand that as well. I don't view it disfavorably because of that, but I'm looking a little bit more time so we could get at it. If we wait until next meeting, would it in fact be a problem for
Well,
you?
the next meeting, I believe, is June 24th.
No, the
No.
next meeting's gonna be probably the end of May, like.
Our next
We can't
Yeah,
meet on
and
the
the end of
26th.
end of May would.
Might be the 27th, we have to talk about that today, but
Okay.
the thought is the 27th in that.
Right, I just want to make sure it's okay with
No,
everything.
no,
you-
27th is fine. I think, I think our timeline is pushed back a little bit anyway, simply because of the
Because
weather.
of the wet.
The poison ivy window, I think is unfortunately.
It's there.
Closed, but, yeah, I think that's okay.
I have one other question. Are we okay with the heavy equipment being brought in? As far as not our operators on those?
Well, he would
It,
have
it
to,
was used initially for that pump track to build it in the first
Yeah.
place.
Okay. that's
and
what
I
I'm
think I
getting at.
heard you say that you would come back to us
Yeah.
about that. If
For
they're
the-
going, if they're going in there with heavy equipment, you're coming back to us to tell us about that. And
Oh, I
in the
will
meantime.
certainly notify you, but it is
Yeah.
in the proposal as
Right.
required in order to do the work.
Right, okay,
Right.
so if there's any concerns from DPW, they can.
Oh, yeah, and I'm I would be communicating with them anyway I'm not gonna get it in there without that gate open, so,
Right,
there will certainly be communication.
Okay.
regarding-
Yeah.
Good question.
Yes,
Okay, it's my understanding that, well, you proposed this in 3 phases.
Mhm.
And it's my understanding, listening to you, that only phases 1 and 2 could possibly be accomplished this season.
correct.
Okay, so would it upset your plans or change your plans if, as a board, we were comfortable approving phases 1 and 2 this year, and then seeing how the outcome is, and then talking about phase 3?
Well, what I would like to do, the only issue there is, the windows for applying for grants are, they're time sensitive.
Yeah,
So I would like to get the grant money in place for something to do next year. There's one particular one that I looked at. I don't know if we would particularly require, because one of the requirements is to be a 501c3.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we would qualify under that. It's through New York State, but there are others as well. So if there could maybe be approval, at least to seek out grants.
yeah, so if you get into the grant season, and I think you're referencing the consolidated funding application season, which is, we're all very familiar with it. We just went through it for last year. It's like a May to July, something.
This one was August 27th, I think is when it closes, but the application's open.
All right, well, the point is, if you find grants where we can talk about that. I'm just not ready. I'm just personally not ready to dive into phase 3. That feels a little more involved. But I do see phases 1 and 2 happening and being a positive outcome for the riders for this year.
Yes, that's fine. So should I come across a grant that seems like it would be in our direction? I know a lot of them are sort of like exploratory grants where you can hire someone to come in and tell you what it's going to be. How would you ask?
Just let me know and I can bring,
Okay.
at least initially, I can bring it to the board, and if we want more conversation with you, we'll talk to you and Mark and.
Yeah, that works.
That's
Okay.
what we're doing.
okay.
Yeah. We approve the
yeah.
grants if you're gonna apply for a grant, we usually approve that you're able to do that.
Okay.
That's what Jane's saying, give the information to her,
That's what,
she brings it to the board.
Yeah,
We give it our blessing, say, yes, if you can get the grant, you can do the project, whatever.
Yeah,
We
sounds
still may
good.
have you do the project if you got money to do it. but we'll-
Yeah, because the real part here is if they're looking for a 501c3, you're obviously not a 501c3 based on your conversation at this point in time. So we'd have to work underneath their village to do that. So we need to know what's going on. We have to approve those
Okay.
as we go along. Okay.
Casey, you still had a question or no?
Thanks. I'm curious, I don't know which one you would answer about what's gonna happen with the felled trees. That's 100 felled trees. What happens to them?
So they'll remain on the ground. And if you look at Dugwood, it's already, I mean, that's the trees as of right now are falling and that's where they are. So they're not going to haul them out. They'll stay
So we
there.
did at the bird sanctuary.
Yeah.
Put them off the
It's
trail.
actually,
They'll leave them off the trail
Yeah.
in the woods.
but that's my understanding all the way around, especially in, I think in New York State, if not the Northeast, that they want trees to stay where they are
Yeah.
because of the limber and they wanted to regenerate what's there. They also don't want what's there to come out and go somewhere else. There's sometimes trees are infested,
A
especially
lot of those dead ones, I'm sure, are
are
active. Yeah.
infested, and they don't want those, they don't want to spread.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Very good. Mark, I have one more thing just for that park in general, but the dog park. Bobby's here and Tyler and Mark from the parks. There's one village resident that lives near the park that consistently has complained about the noise coming from the park. That is the only village resident that has complained about the noise coming from the park, from the dog park this is. Bobby and I and Tyler have looked at it. I've looked at it with Mark. I've looked at it with the people that utilize the park. And we've discussed different scenarios of solutions. At one point, there was a berm put there with some trees, which are now dying. Because of the way the berm is, I believe Bobby talked to me about that. We're not really seeing a solution that will be a viable solution for the dog park and the owner. So at this point in time, I'm going to just reach back out to him. I want to make you aware of this, that I'm going to say that there isn't any real solution that we are able to come up with at this point in time. And we will see where it goes from there or whatever, but that we don't really have a way of mitigating the noise. And when I get complaints, they say that the dogs have barked 3 hours incessantly. So I don't know that that's always the case. I've been there a lot of times. I haven't been there yet this year, but I will be going there this year to see what I find when the dogs are there. But just to bring the board up to speed as to what I have.
what's our time? Is it time different for that park, that dog park than the other parks?
Believe it's still dusk to dawn. Or dawn to dusk, sorry, not the other way around. Definitely not the other way around.
I think,
Yeah.
is the complaints during the day?
It's every day, all day long. The complaints. You see your question?
Yeah. So you might not want to answer this question, but you did say that this might become a bigger attraction for a larger group of riders.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, in your deliberations and talking with DPW about whether the parking lot is going to accommodate both the interest from on the dog park as well as the biking interest.
We had talked about this a little bit last time. It is a gravel parking lot, so if it had to be expanded, it certainly could incorporate a few more cars. I don't think I've ever seen it completely full.
No.
And, you know, if we're in need of more space, I'm sure we can cross that bridge when we come to it. It's a good problem to have.
We take a lot of the old road millings that we have stored up there, and that's how we built that parking lot. So it'd be easily.
I think it's been expanded once already, right?
Yeah, we did that second half
Yeah.
a couple years ago. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John.
Would you like me to attend the next meeting?
It's gonna, Jane can let you know, when it's gonna be
Okay.
at 6 o'clock at night, it won't be
Okay.
during the day. So
Yeah, and I think people have questions, we
It
should
might
try
be a
to
good
get them
idea,
to you
just- Yeah,
before
yeah.
that meeting,
Maybe we
so that
can,
we can, so you can prepare to answer.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just want to have a
Yeah, you can
chance
let
to
me know. Maybe
review
Oh,
it.
absolutely. I
Maybe you
completely
don't.
understand.
Maybe you don't have to come.
You might not have to.
We can-
I just
okay.
want to take a good look.
We
at
can
it.
let you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is the public hearing for the community development block grant, and this is a grant that we are applying for to community development to replace the boiler at the Fayetteville Senior Center. We've had estimates as high as $88,000 to do this, and the limit of the community development block grant is $50,000. So we're applying for a grant for $50,000. And we're required to have a public hearing about that. So
I moved to open the public meeting
motion
hearing.
to open the public hearing
Second.
and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is open in regards to the block, community development block grant for the boiler at the Fayetteville Senior Center. Anyone have any comments, questions? Okay,
I moved to close the public hearing.
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anything else, Lori? We're good, we already approved it, okay. No, no, he's not here, and I don't know that he had anything, the chief, the fire.
Yeah.
No,
did-
no, no. No,
Well,
he's fit, Bill.
basically, I would just need the board to make the motion to submit the application as is for the HVAC improvement through.
Okay, so motion moved by Dan,
Second.
moved and seconded, this is to submit the application for the $50,000. All in favor?
So my understanding, it doesn't change my vote. Your answer won't change my vote, but my understanding based on what you said is that we're going to submit the application for 50 primarily because that is the ceiling that this grant has for funding, but that the cost for
There's
the
a-
replacement may be more than 50.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the high end is $88,000 quote that I have. There's two quotes. One scenario was 66,000, I believe. The other one is 88. So I just gave them the worst case. So the difference between the 50 and either the 66 or the 88 would be the village's share, which.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
Or another grant share, but it's got to
if we can
come
do
from
that,
somewhere.
exactly.
I'm just gonna voice it now, we probably will talk about it later, is as far as fixing or replacing that system, I encourage we take, even it does cost more right now, I want something that's gonna be sustainable for that building for a long time, right? Instead of a Band-Aid.
And even in the reserve that we have set up in the next budget, which would be the repair, that could be the difference between it out of there. If we don't get a grant or other funding,
So,
that'll be there to pay for it all.
and we have fixed the boiler over the years, but it still is the original heating system that was put in with Parnell Hall, but I don't have the year in my head as to when it was,
The thing is, in
So,
the 90s.
but it's.
It never worked.
But are we
The,
gonna?
the
we'll talk
system
about
worked,
that later.
yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah,
is
no,
just
I mean,
about the
just in
grant.
general, though, I mean, it has lasted a long time. There's been some glitches along the way, mainly with the controls as to how you would adjust the heat and air conditioning has been a problem. And of course, there's been some repairs more recently that eventually those repairs become significant enough where it's cheaper to replace something than to continue to
Yeah.
beat a dead horse, as they say, so. Okay, next we have the chicken permit application for 209 Warren Street. They're here, and they have currently a chicken permit application that this board has approved. I believe it was approved for 6 chickens. We allow up to 12, so they wanted to increase the amount of chickens that they can have up to 12. They may not have 12 at any one time, but that's the premise of this. And then they're also you're not changing the coop itself, but you're going to extend the runway, or are you adding on to the coop a little bit because you might have some more chicken?
We reviewed the original submission from when we had the first permit. We had shifted our coop location slightly and expanded it at that point, and I think there's an additional 30 square feet from what was originally submitted. So we're not changing anything with our coop. But the outside run area, we're going to extend along the back side of our property. It's fenced in, and then we're gonna put a metal like wire fence across there to give them additional run space.
And the neighbors were notified, I believe Karen told me.
Yeah.
And nobody's here to speak from the neighbors, so I think you've been a good neighbor with your chickens. So.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
He was either place.
yeah, the intent is we did the similar thing at, we lived on South Hampton Street. And the idea is that because you cannot buy any less than 6 chicks, just due to, the regulations. It's difficult to as we want to expand. Right now, we have 4 chickens who are a few years old now. They will eventually die and pass along. But to be able to add chickens now, we had to get 6 chicks, and then that just, we don't want to be over our limit, obviously. So
Right.
That sort of.
I appreciate you coming in.
Somewhere in 8 to 10. So
So
Moved by Dan, second. Any other questions? Thoughts? Okay.
I just had one comment. There's having a major battle in the town of Clay. And there are people that want to have chickens and they can't have them. They should hire you to go there and be a spokesman.
They should let them come and
Because you-
see how it's done.
You've done it for a long time and know how to do it.
yeah, and again, our neighborhood seems to enjoy it. We have the coop set so that the neighbors can see that chickens and part of the outdoor run area. So we get a lot of comments, and a lot of people enjoy bringing the kids by, and I think we heard over the weekend while we were out in the yard, neighbors came over and were questioning why they got a notice about this. I said, oh, well, it's not that there's a problem with our thing.
They were looking for
We're looking
chicken
to
coop.
expand it. So, we have very positive feedback from our.
Okay, very good. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have some information on this, in discussion with Brandon Lazor, who's going to join us via Zoom. In regard.
They not show on the screen.
Okay.
May I start talking about it while we're waiting for Brandon?
Yeah.
Brandon has seen the documents that I put before the board, and I apologize to the public. Anyone who has interest in this, let me know. Just as background for all of us, the village currently has a balance of $13,000 from the CNY Arts Grant. It was for 2 murals. 1 mural was completed, but the other was not due to a siting issue. So an alternative proposal is on the table to hire a painter by the name of Brandon Lazor. Brandon is an Onondaga man of the Snipe clan who has been working professionally as a painter for a number of years and who is growing in popularity and recognition. So I've met him several years ago. I've watched his work. He has a website that we can look at all of his work. And Brandon during COVID developed what would be an innovative approach to murals. And what he is now offering as an option, he can do straight murals, but what he is now offering as an option is that he does an original piece of art, which we then own, which that piece is valuable and his pieces are already appreciating. But from that, he then does a digital scan, and the digital scan can be printed in a number of sizes or formats and on different things. So we would own the painting, and which would be forever, and we would own the scan, and we could use the scan as we wish, including to produce panels. And in previous conversations, I mentioned that is what happens at the Central New York, at the Great New York State Fair in the Indian Village. So the panels are not up all year round, but there are other options. He's working on one in Tully right now, in which they would be. So we, let me see, I've got everything on there. And so the advantage of this versus a traditional mural is that a traditional mural has a lifespan of 15 to 20 years, with some period of time being in deterioration. Should we go with the idea of making this an outdoor mural, a scanned copy, we would then have the option at some point to replace that, which we wouldn't have with the traditional mural. So this idea of owning a piece of art permanently and then having something that we can use for a period of time and do follow up if we wanted to, is the way that is the proposal that I had discussed before, but I feel like I am now better able to express it. Brandon is joining us. Although he is an Onondaga man, he lives in the Akwesasne Reservation where he's raising his family. And here is Brandon.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yes, as she said, I do, regular murals. Normally if we would go the route of doing just a traditional mural on the wall, I would normally factor in the materials and cost for a lift or anything like that. And then with whatever was left of the budget, I would write up as an artist fee. And then, the mural would be completed. And then the other option, as she explained, that other people have chosen is I would do an original painting that you would own the rights to, that you could create merchandise and sell, the image as, and the painting would appreciate. And when at a time and place you would like, you could print it out and create the mural with it. And it could go out seasonal, it can be moved around the village, or it could be permanently placed. And then if weather ever played a part in the deterioration of it, it would easily be able to be fixed. So that would be the other option that I do as far as like the mural goes. It would be up to you to choose. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question, because obviously when we look at going into where you're going into a digital format, et cetera, when we actually purchase a painting and do something, we typically have the rights to the digital format if we create that ourselves, or if it was offered by the artist right up front. We don't necessarily are in the position where if a work of art is produced for us and it's in one of our buildings, that we don't have that right of ownership, if you understand what I'm saying. Are you doing it in a different way or not? And I'll be really candid, I really like having a permanent display, because moving it around makes it very difficult for us with storage, et cetera, because we don't have those kinds of facilities. I'm trying to, and I like your work, that's not my problem. I'm just trying to figure out how we can work about this and figure out what our cost differences are and what goes on, so that we can examine this in a true light and be on the same page all at the same time. And I appreciate you being innovative of what's going on, by the way.
Yes, I don't believe the storing of it would be too bad, because it's usually like on foam boards a lot of times, or you could have it on like aluminum panels. Uh, as far as the differences, you will own either way, you're gonna own the rights to it within the pricing. I'll write it up as that. If you buy the original painting, it'll all be written up in the pricing of it. And the thing is that it will appreciate over time, and the original artwork that you will own will eventually pay off the mural in its appreciation value. And with the original mural, that it all comes down to which direction you want to go. If you want to do the original mural, that definitely will be owned by the village, and whatever you would like to do with that. The only difference is over time, you know how winters are in upstate New York, and these murals, they weather away a little bit. We can do things to kind of put like maybe a varnish over it to last, but that's as far as it goes. Now, as far as the painting goes, then you can, in the other way, you can move around the village with the painting, or if you wanted to transfer it to different areas, or let other towns borrow it or lend it out. And then you can create merchandise with the digital image that will bring in money that will also pay back what you put into creating it. Yeah, and then you could promote it through tourism, and they can buy. Maybe people will come by and like the mural, would want to buy a trinket about it or something like that. You will be able to do that with the digital image that is provided, and the original painting can be lent to museums also, and things like that. There's just a lot more that can be done with it as going with the digital way. But if you guys like the original mural way, I'm totally on board with that also.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You answered my question for me.
Is there
Yes.
places where
There's some local places where they can look at your work also, correct? Local in Syracuse.
Yes, I have a monument on Syracuse University on the quad you can go see. Onondaga Community College has my artwork all throughout it. The town of Liverpool, I just recently completed a mural there in October, and you can check that out. It's right near the library in Liverpool. So they went the mural route with theirs because that's what they wanted. I didn't really pitch the other one because they had the location and it was already ready to go. I'm not sure if you guys have your location ready and I can come down and see a size and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that if you want it painted on it, and maybe we can see if we need a lift or any other things that might come up about it. But as far as me doing the painting version, I can do it right here in my studio, and it wouldn't disrupt the community with maybe, having to block roads or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know that we have a building that we can utilize for a physical mural as opposed to the panels. That's why we were my thoughts were going more towards the painting and panel idea where it could be displayed. It could be in a permanent type of display situation, but on panels where they might be more accessible or viewable to a lot of people. As far as the subject matter, how would we work with you on that type of thing?
This would be something that we can sit down and have a meeting about. I can personally come in and educate you about the Haudenosaunee for people who don't know. And if there's something that you hear or like, we can kind of go down that route and maybe design something towards that. Or if you have knowledge and you do want to highlight something in the mural, I definitely can do that also.
Can I just add to that? I did put the steps here. There's the design meeting. And from that, a preliminary sketch is developed. Then, if that is acceptable to us, that sketch gets put on canvas so we can get a better sense of it. Then the painting happens and then the digital scan happens. One of the things that this comes out of for me, and I just want to mention so everyone knows, is that in our comprehensive plan on page 118, we say specifically that we will recognize and honor Haudenosaunee history in public spaces throughout the village. So those are inside or outside. And the importance of that is that the only place that we currently have that recognizes the Haudenosaunee is in a room in the Gage House. I will add a little postscript there. Right now, the Gage Center has lent to Fayetteville Library a beautiful set of like 6-foot panels that get into teaching about the Haudenosaunee. So that's something I recommend everyone look at. And in the process of not only the development of our comprehensive plan, but in the development of the town comprehensive plan, I participated in a focus group on history. And then out of that, everyone there wanted to talk about Haudenosaunee people. So then a listening session was developed that was really very positive, and we learned a lot about that. I think the most important thing when we think about Haudenosaunee art is the idea that they have been erased. The presence of the people who come before on any of the original settlers of this land is not visible. So the idea of creating visibility counters the problem of erasure. So when we go forward with this, which we've already decided we want to do something like that, Brandon is really open.
Well, the comprehensive plan says that. That doesn't mean we've decided on
The
that.
comprehensive plan says that.
Yeah.
And so what we have just, I originally posed some ideas to Brandon based on my own knowledge of history, and they were mostly historically based. And one of the most important things that a message that we get is that we are not just people from history. We are here, we live, we have beautiful art. And this idea that we could help do that in our village, which has so much rich history, is very exciting because they would like the people who communicated with us from the nation, who were elder leaders, this idea of making that visible in a number of different ways, and I know the Parks Commission has talked about this a little bit too, is an exciting opportunity for us, and one that I think helps. I think, Brandon, your point about what are the attractions in our village? When we have unique attractions, there are people who visit our village, and we draw a lot of people going through our village because of Green Lakes. So this is one of those things that, oh, I'm staying here, and I'm gonna check this out. So to me, this is, again, I'm just gonna say a wonderful opportunity. Anybody, other questions?
My questions are all about costs.
That's mine too.
That's,
I'm trying to understand where we are in cost.
well,
because
what's
I
left
get-
of
go
our
ahead.
grant? What's left of our grant? It says here that is the balance 13,000 or was that the full? I don't know anything.
The balance is 13,000.
The balance is
So we have
$13,000
$13,000
to work
to
with.
spend on some form of art, right? So then, if you could help factor in well, what the cost is for if we were to choose.
So do we have consensus from the standpoint that we would consider more, and we don't have to, I'm just asking the question now. Do we have more of a consensus that we would be looking at the painting idea with the digital scanning and produce panels to display somewhere in the village? As opposed to a building to actually paint the mural on? Do you need time to think about that? These are all questions. I'm not looking for an answer if you don't have an answer.
Well,
I need costs. I need to know the cost of panels. I need to know the cost of storage of panels. I need to know the cost of additional merchandise. I need to know the cost of taking a digital image, turning it into a hat, a t-shirt, a pamphlet, a brochure, there's costs associated with all of that, and we have $15,000. I just don't understand. I'd like to understand how
I
that
think
spreads
that,
out.
I think the $13,000, my opinion, and Lori can correct me if I'm wrong with this idea, but the 13,000 is only for the mural or the painting or the digitization of that is the scanned thing that we can reproduce. The reproduction costs are not part of the
No.
grant. Any merchandise, we don't have a village shop, let's put it that way, where we could merchandise this stuff. There, we might be able to sell the rights to that to someone else to merchandise the stuff. But that's down the road somewhere that doesn't exist right now in the 13,000. So somehow we gotta figure out the cost of painting with what he just described as far as the digitization of that painting and the cost of the panels and the installation of those panels. From what I just heard from what you explained, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, those panels are available to be out year round. They don't have to be stored necessarily. Is that correct or incorrect?
I believe that it all would come down to the option of what you had it made from. I'm pretty sure there's a year-round option that you can have it made. Maybe it's printed on an aluminum panel.
Okay, so
That
we have
I'm
to
a little
look
bit,
at that a little bit then or whatever, because we don't have the 100% answer on that. But those are the things, those are the questions that we'll be developing, I think, next in the process of doing this and going forward. One way or the other, we're going forward.
Lori, could you help me here? We need to be communicating the concept of what we want to do to CNY Arts.
Yeah, we have to get approval. We have to have whatever the board decides they want to do for this art project has to be submitted to Central New York Arts. Who then says yes or no, and then it has to go to the county administrator, say, okay, that's fine. Because they approve
But we would
one,
have to have a conceptual drawing or.
we'd have to have
propose
something,
whatever,
yes.
or at least an idea of what we're gonna do.
We don't, and I don't think they're going to say no, especially with the background, given. But they want to see what we're proposing.
And is there a time frame on when we have to use this by?
There,
I know there is.
there
I don't know
is.
if you know it. If you don't know it right now.
No, I think we have a few years left, but I think they encourage us to use them up, so especially because we.
So if we want to apply for
any more.
another one, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a
We're
question,
hoping
Brandon.
This summer, I'm sorry.
yes.
Sorry, let me get my head straight a second. my train of thought. Did you have a question?
Actually, I mean, what I'm looking at is trying to understand whether you'd be willing to work with us on the conceptual piece before, so we could present to see whether or not we can utilize the grant, because I have to figure out where our numbers are going, period, with all of this. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to understand the total numbers. I have to understand whether or not I can put something in front of the folks for this, for the Central New York Arts Grant, whether they would accept our concept and working the concept with you, obviously, in order to do that. And I understand this very well because I actually worked on the comprehensive plan for the village as the mayor before I became mayor. So I understand exactly what's going on here and why we're trying to work with this, because this is a major piece of our history. There's no question about it. It's a major piece of history for the area. I'm trying to understand where we're going price-wise so we can actually understand whether the grant would be applicable or not. And if that's not what's going to happen, I have to figure out what else we have to do. If it's even if it is applicable, where we are with what we propose to do in order to understand what other costs we have to do. So I'm trying to be straight up and honest with you as well, because I don't like this whole thing. Just bear with us. We'll take care of it. You understand. And you're sitting in the same position we are, which doesn't make it very good for you at times too. And I appreciate that. So I want to work in good faith partnership in order to do this properly. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes, what I do is I normally just tailor it around the grant. Like, you know, whatever the grant is, I make it work out to it covers everything, you know? Like, say the painting would be, like, say if you went the mural way, what I normally do would be, there's 13 grand. I would complete the mural, all the costs to create the mural would be subtracted from that. And then I would write a invoice for an artist fee of whatever would be left. So that's how I would do the mural. And then if it was for the painting, say I would sell the painting to you for 10 grand, the rights to you for 2,500, and you know, whatever. I would word it to where it worked out to your budget, so that you don't have to, like, kind of, I guess, worry about other monies having to come in and play a part onto what I'm offering. With the digital scan, you'll get the original painting, all the rights to the original painting, and a digital scan. And then when you find a location and size and all that you would like and merchandise you like, then you could print it out and have it done. Or I'll come and physically do the mural, and I can do it that way also, to where the mural's on a building and I physically come do it, and all the costs of, like, the travel, my lodging, and all this other stuff is subtracted from the grant, and it's covered all within the grant pricing. So I'll tailor it to whatever the amount we have for it, you know?
So then I think what we need to find out then is, one, if we have a building that it would go on, and two, what our cost would be to create these panels and what the panels are made of and what the longevity of them is, because that's going to be on us. That's not going to be on a grant. That's not going to be on anything else.
Right.
Before we go forward, I think we'll look into those costs. Right? You had something else, Jane, maybe beyond that, but
No, you mentioned it, the panels,
like, I understand the painting, the rights to the digital scan, all that stuff will be covered by the grant money. So if we take, and or the mural itself, if we paint it on the side of a building, that part of it I can understand, and that part of it we know will be contained within that particular cost. But then there's a cost for us to move forward with it, and that cost would be the panels, what they're made of, when they can be out, when they can't be out, which I don't have answers to. Where we would put them and different things like that. So we have a little bit of homework on our end to kind of look at that next, and then come back to you, I guess, and say, okay, we found out the expenses for the village. We're gonna, I mean, it'd be great to have a painting hanging here, but there isn't a lot of traffic in this building that's going to see your painting. It's much more going to be much more seen out in the community itself on these panels or whatever we decide to do. So I think we need to find out what those exterior costs are for us, knowing what your costs are for this.
are we making a decision here, or are we just?
No, I
taking
think I'm
information?
trying to get,
Are we?
I'm trying to get a direction from everybody. That the way I see it is our expense is going to be what we do with it after we have it. I
I
want to
haven't
find
made
out
any
what the,
decisions on how we move forward with this.
No.
Myself, as a trustee, I am still very much considering all of that's been presented to us today. So I just want our artists to know that from my perspective. I appreciate.
and I'm not
everything.
asking, what I'm asking to do is to get ideas of what the cost would be after we have this. We're not spending the money. We're
I know
gonna
that.
find out what it is that it will cost us to display the product if we go and buy the product.
Right.
See what I mean?
I
Not necessarily.
know, but I'm saying I'm not even sure I'm buying the product.
I understand that,
Okay,
but how,
so we're saying the same thing.
we're saying the same thing a little differently, but don't you want to know? So would you buy the product not knowing how much it's going to cost to display the product? So I want to just find out what it's going to cost to display the product in the process of deciding whether we're going to buy it
Okay.
or not.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to say, but I'm
Okay,
not saying it very clearly.
okay.
Brandon, could you offer us, I don't know if it's available to you or not because of your clients that work and that they've done these panels. Can you offer us the people who've done this so that we could contact them directly to find out who they've used for?
I believe it was New York State Fair that created the one. They actually paid for the creation of the fair one.
Okay.
And I'm currently doing this same setup with the Kettle Lake Society in Tully. I'm
Okay.
actually in the process of painting their painting. And I believe in a meeting, they've said they've reached out to people and it wasn't as expensive as they thought because it all comes down to how big you want this to be. Like it's hard to give a number or anything because I don't know the size or location or
I
there's
understand that.
a lot of factors, but for as far as like say a 46 by 36 piece of foam board, it's like $80, I think I got a price on. And if you buy more, the price goes down the more you go because you're gonna go bigger than that with the mural. And it depends on like what you do. Like, some people might want it printed on aluminum because it's going to sit out all year or something, that would play a part into it, which you guys could probably look into. But I don't like this sizing would come down to it because it could be printed out on one thing, or if you want it huge, it might have to be a few things. So there's factors involved that I can't really answer until we come up with sizings. And as far as like an idea for the painting and things like that, I'm always open for a meeting to come and come up with ideas. And if we can zero in on one, I can give you a sketch that you can propose it with to CNY. And I'm definitely open to do that. And it's up to you guys. I just give that as an option to give you more things you can do, more bang for your buck kind of deal. But if you just want the mural painted, I'm also open to just come down and paint a mural. I do that also, there's no problem with that.
Thank you.
Yes.
One more question,
No, I don't.
just the
I
last.
want to go see him. I gotta go see him.
Um,
I can't do this.
has
I'm not good at
any
this
of your murals been funded through CNY Arts? Has any of your
Yeah.
art been funded through CNY Arts?
Yeah.
already?
Yes, the recent one I just did in Liverpool, they funded.
I have pictures of the one in Liverpool.
I'm gonna go look at it.
Yeah, let's, maybe we could take a drive out. All right,
See.
that was my
All right.
last question.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you. zooming in
Yes,
with-
thank you.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Yep, have a great day.
Thank you, you
Thank
too.
you. All right,
Karen.
solicitors permits for Spectrum and Fox Pest Control. What are you guys considering for maybe?
So Charter Spectrum came in and they would like to go door to door, giving out information on their services that they can provide. They've got their background checks done, they filled out the application, paid the fee.
Motion to have them come with the usual parameters.
Yes, I move to move forward to apply, to approve the solicitor's permit for Spectrum with the usual parameters.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
The other one is Fox Pest Control. They too submitted their application and would like to go door to door, handing out information of the services they provide for pest control. They've got their background forms all filled out, submitted. I have nothing back. So
I so move.
I'll second in making sure we talk to them about the parameters very strongly, because I know that there's been a few times when that particular organization that has not worked within our parameters.
But can we, if we have experience of them not following our,
It's not documented.
okay,
That's the problem. I have a few folks who've talked to me about it and stuff, but it's not documented at this point.
Well, if something like that happens, you should get on it right away and find out.
Yeah.
They can't wait till,
They didn't, yeah, I know,
2 months down
they
the
didn't want to
road.
pursue it. That was the
they
problem.
can't wait 2 months down the road and say,
No.
hey. I totally agree.
yeah, we don't want.
Get on it right away.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Ledyard Canal grant opportunities. So last meeting, we had a discussion in regard to the Ledyard Canal and perhaps seeking out a grant for a certain type of study to be done. Since that meeting, there's been some communications via email, via phone, via whatever. And so this is probably just another discussion at this point in time. I don't know if we're ready to move forward with anything specifically. But as was discussed and brought up at the last meeting, we were looking at 2 different types of grants, and it's now been suggested that a more engineering type of grant request to see about maintenance and how to preserve and prolong the canal would be more appropriate than the other type of grant that was proposed or we talked about more initially at the last meeting. There's another, we've gotten this email, I believe everybody got it. There's another thought about adding or nominating this for the National Register of Historic Places. I don't know that I'm ready to move forward with something like that till we do like an engineering. I think we need to take this in steps to see what it is that the canal needs to be preserved or to be kept functioning. And then see what that report comes back as, and then take a look as to how we want to move forward with it and what we have to do. I know Bobby and Tyler and I believe Pam and Malcolm have walked, and Casey was there this morning with them. So at different points over the last few days, some thoughts and some discussion has been taking place up off of the Route 92 area of where the canal goes through. That's an area that we have historically been working on over the years. There's some things that need to be done there specifically. In the past, we've hired a lot of the times Jim McGraw and or Pat Massett to come back because they were the ones that operated the equipment and worked on the dike and had a lot of knowledge from the numbers of years that they had been working. Not that these 2 gentlemen don't have a lot of knowledge either, but they don't also have the time perhaps that they would have by hiring them to come back to do something like a project like that what we need. So I guess at this point, we'll just open it up if anybody has anything to discuss about it and then see about what other people think about those ideas that I just said.
Go ahead, Danny.
This is for engineering.
Well,
This is
This is
information in
existing
general.
conditions assessment.
Last time we talked about
So,
getting,
I know, but I'm nervous about what do you need an engineer for?
May I defer to people who know more here and invite Craig to answer that question. The historical value it's an engineering report that has received recognition in the Library of Congress. So if you walk the canal, you can see that there are complications caused by trees and vegetation and embankments being washed away that, our guys maintain, will be working on soon in terms of clearing out some of that. But when the embankments are failing, they say, this is an engineering question. And that's clear to me that this is an engineering question as well, in order for this to be preserved. But I don't feel like, I think other people should speak to it who know more than me.
So you're saying that DPW has decided there's places where engineering is needed? I mean, we have breaches due to those darn animals that, you know, like just dig through.
Muskrats and stuff, yeah. There just might be something in an engineering report that like we might have overlooked because we're just looking for flow, or if there's debris in the canal, there just might be something that they see that could be more long-term that we might just not see in the day-to-day like routine that we go check. So.
Could
I,
could I just answer some of that question too, to do with why an engineering report? Or not,
Sure,
um,
just throw it out there.
yeah, sure, like Small just said, myself and, wonderful DPW crew here, Bobby and Tyler, walked, some of the canal, this morning. And actually, I'm gonna put this up so that, I can sort of reference, this is a map that. Thanks. This map actually came from, the hair nomination that we got,
Right.
so,
Can you say what hair means?
Historic American Engineering Record. That was another grant that we received to get the nomination, back, what, 3 years ago, Craig, something like that.
Yeah.
And,
Go through the
So-
detail of that.
Well, we
Yeah.
kind of want to focus on why we need the engineering, not,
Yeah.
we know the history of what you've done already, so I'm not cutting
Okay.
it short. But
Are
we could go on for a long time. I thought we were just gonna have a discussion about this.
Yeah, are we, the way you're asking this, are we not considering a CLR? Is that off the table?
well, we can't even get a CLR. They're not available. They're not, can't get them. Certified local government grant? Is that-
No.
Oh,
no,
I'm sorry.
Cultural landscape report.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry,
not-
sorry. Yes, well, we were, Craig, why don't you?
One at a time here, guys.
No,
But
go
I'm trying
ahead.
to
Craig.
think,
I
try and
I
get
don't want
information.
a long explanation. I want a yes or a no. Is a cultural landscape report the application for grant monies for a cultural landscape report, is that still in front of the Board of Trustees? That's all I want, yes or no?
We would like to modify it based on the questions that were raised at the last
Okay,
meeting
but,
and consultation with consultants.
okay, so yes, all right.
Yes.
And is, sorry, Mayor, I'm just trying to
No,
know what
I'm trying to
I
make
wanna
sure everybody's
I got
kind of
my
where we.
understanding straight.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the modification, so you mentioned an engineering report. Is that the report, or is that just a completely separate kind of document that we're considering?
I can explain a little bit. Back in 2021,
I don't want, I'm
we
sorry.
applied for a Preserve New York grant and only allowed 4 checkboxes. Cultural landscape report was the one that was the closest fit. The actual scope of the work that Tetra Tech proposed could be interpreted as an engineering report.
Okay. Okay,
So that's why there's a little.
so
confusion.
we're working in a little bit of a different name change, but we're looking at, is this application for one report? I'm trying to understand.
I believe it's for one report. I believe it's my understanding from a conversation with you that it is strictly for engineering and of the focus of what to do, what it needs.
Facility and its
right.
condition and maintenance, okay, all
The
right,
history and the photography has already been conducted as part of the air nomination, which was accepted now in the Library of
yeah,
Congress.
yeah, yeah,
So a lot of that has been done. Thank
Okay.
you. It's now our desire to have somebody with more expertise than any of us here in the village to look at it and give us some helpful information on how to maintain the canal so that we don't have continuing erosion
Yeah.
and free
Engineering's
falls
been
and,
done.
you know, the ongoing maintenance. It's a historic resource that we need to extend into the future. I should say, since the last meeting, the original consultant that we were working with, Tetra Tech, was pulled away and said that they have too much schoolwork to do and they could not put this into their schedule. So with that, just last week at the New York State Preservation Conference, I ran into two consultants that I value very highly. One is EDR, Andrea ran into, and Grant, and Pat Heaton, who is now in a leadership position at EDR, used to serve on the Historic Preservation Commission. So I value his opinion highly, and what you have in front of you is a copy of an email he sent to me and Pam suggesting that we change it to what it is, which is an engineering report. And since we already have a lot of the research done, it would be easily nominated for the National Register, which would in the future open up for other grant possibilities. The thing with the Preserve New York, back in the day, we would have qualified, we got denied, and then they reduced it so that there's a $20,000 cap with a 20% match. It didn't fit. And then we applied for CLG. CLG program is now suspended, possibly canceled.
Could
So
you help
that's
me with the
not
acronym of CLG?
Certified Local Government Grant.
That's what you were
through New York
referencing,
State,
Pam.
but it's
Okay.
funded through the federal government. And as you know, there's a lot of chaos and confusion at the federal level, which is now trickled down. And I just heard last week that it's done. So
CLG is done.
CLGs are done. So there's no avenue there. Preserve New York is only a $20,000 cap. There's not enough money with that program, even if we did qualify. So that's out. The thing that Casey has been working on through Senator Ryan's office is really the only alternative left to get the proper funding to move this forward. And even that is competitive and may take up to and maybe over a year to accomplish. So this is what we're looking to just move forward and hopefully.
So what you're proposing is listed under 4 in this email.
Yeah.
Like B through D, say, so. Existing conditions assessment.
Yep.
Development of priority rehabilitation repair recommendations. And development of a maintenance plan. That's what you're looking to
That's what we would like to
have
do.
someone look at.
To move forward and just change the name on the report that we had sent out. It would, I think, be more in line with it. The report was really to kind of sell this to folks at the state. As we know, this is the year of the canal, celebrating the Erie Canal anniversary. So there's a good chance, there we go. There's a good chance that this might get the attention it needs and the funding that is requested.
Okay.
And it certainly is needed because as we can see, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the canal.
Okay, so does that answer 4 questions
Yeah.
about for them? I'm not asking you to stop the conversation, but just ask.
I'd like to say one thing.
Yep.
Pam, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I apologize for that. This is a very important topic for all of us, and I was confused. So I apologize for that. Craig, thank you for your explanation. That really clarified everything. And I really appreciate that.
Yep.
So
Sorry, I
that's-
picked up a cold at the presentation conference.
I respect your mask.
So what we're looking at is 4C.
Well, for B, C,
B,
and D.
B's done. We've already done that. There's a survey. A survey was done when we bought the thing
No,
for
see,
25.
you're looking at
Well,
B and C, I suppose, but we do already have the survey and
She only did so many
documentation.
copies.
I can't see it.
so
Oh,
it's not a survey, not a physical land survey, it's a survey of the conditions of
Okay,
what's there and identify, so a survey of the typical existing conditions, so the dimensions, the materials, things like that that they can probably gain from our physical land survey, some of that information of the canal. Identification of general threats and issues of concern, so like erosion, vandalism, vegetation, we just talked about that, kind of. Identification of specific locations with more acute threats, so tree roots or different things where there's a problem. And then, so that's kind of their survey, is not necessarily a physical survey of the land, but a survey of the overall conditions from beginning to end.
Okay,
And then
sorry, I
in that,
misread it.
in that process, well, it's important that we all understand this, and that's why we gotta take our time to make sure that we're all on the same page with what we're looking at and why we're looking at it and what we want to do. Development of then what are the recommendations? Focusing, just like the tree management plan as an example, focusing on what are the most areas of most concern to least concern, so that the ones of most concern, like we just talked about at Dewey Park also, can be addressed first, and then we work our way down to the lower things. And as we can afford to do it, or have the funds to do it, or find grant money to do it, and then develop a maintenance plan and different annual inspections that might help maintain this going forward.
Yeah, that,
I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking of, or looking at now, is for what the concept is of what we're trying,
Well-
maybe gonna try and do.
right, that's just what I think I was trying to reference last meeting when I was calling it a maintenance report. So I was giving it a different title, but
Yep.
that's along the lines of what I was thinking. The only thing that's not stated in here, which I think Pam raised and Casey raised last meeting, that's really important to us, is to have some kind of hydrology focus too.
Yes.
Right? We want to make sure the water keeps flowing and in the right direction and at the right speed and all that good stuff. So I don't, that's the only kind of
Additional type of thing.
yeah,
that might be
additional
looking at.
assessment I would add. I just repeated myself.
Could I just say something too? When we went on the walk this morning, I didn't realize there was a pinhole leak already. Bobby brought it up and Tyler showed me where the pinhole leak is, and it's showing up below 25-foot embankment down to the preserve area. Those are the kind of things that, yes, it's right now, it's a pinhole leak. What's tomorrow, what's next month, whatever, what happens when a tree gets uprooted, that if it had been cut down, it wouldn't have compromised the canal. There's many trees, or there's one huge willow tree, I believe it is, that has been there and laying around, and they're gonna have to be dredging that out and cutting it apart, but that kind of, I don't know how any of you, I mean, if you've seen the canal, the condition it is in that area, well, the map's gone now. But basically where the preserve, it borders preserve. It basically. Okay. Yeah, it's like anywhere's from like here through here into the preserve. There's a lot of overgrowth with trees that are dead, laying in the way of encompassing, and making it hard for the flow to go through. Just unsightly, and it's very hard to walk through. And there is a trail there that the neighbors have been walking on this for who knows how long. So you can easily walk along there and assess what we saw today. Basically, if all those things are not done on a regular basis, sooner or later, you're going to be faced with a catastrophe of a hole that got bigger and washed out some yard or the preserve, or then we've lost the water that feeds Berry Park, the pond. Then we have no water in the pond without maybe spending millions of dollars to repair it. And that's my concern. That's all my concern is just to embrace this historic wonder and just say, hey, let's make sure that we are maintaining it. And on top of maintaining it, we want engineers and other people that know how to plug a hole properly. I mean, yes, you can put clay up against it and maybe that's all they would suggest, but maybe there's a lot more. Maybe there has to be more of an embankment there to ensure that that doesn't happen on a regular basis. That's all what can come from an engineer report. And then we can go from there and actually start working on it to to preserve it.
Casey, you had something or not?
Yeah, I wanted to, there has been some questions about whether this is about creating trails. This has nothing to do with anything but the preservation of the canal. And nothing to do with any previous ideas about the walking trails. Mike, I wasn't really sure. Other people don't know, we are talking about the proposal from Pat Heaton, who is a principal at EDR. Was for us to change the scope of work. We're still pursuing the same idea of preserving and maintaining the canal. We would be editing the document, which is being responsive to the issues that were raised. So to me, this is working us toward consensus. But you said, you immediately went to, well, we're not gonna do the National Register of Historic Places. So I would like to support Mr. Heaton's recommendation on that.
I didn't say we weren't going to do
Okay.
it. I said I wanted to see the recommendations of the engineering first before we go that route, because once we sign it into the National Historic Register, we are responsible to do things a certain way, no matter what, and we don't have an option and we don't have any outs to get around that. We can't make it not historically proper. Not that I don't want to do that, but I don't know what the expense is going to be to do that. And before I saddle the village taxpayers with something like that, I want to see what the engineering comes back with first. And then move on into something like that, once we see what we're working with and what the outlook is going to be. So I'm not against it, I'm not opposed to the idea. I just don't want to do it at the same time as, I want to do the engineering first. I want to do it in steps or stages or whatever you want to say, or progression. I want to see what the engineering says first, see what the fixes are. It could be, as Sam just mentioned, it could be as easy as doing it like we've done it for the last however many years that I've been on, well, 22 years that Jim Crow's been up there working on it, when we've had a leak, when we've had different things or whatever. And whoever before him and whoever before them, might be as simple as that. And it might not be an expense that we can't afford and we can't maintain and keep. But we have to, could there be something along the way in certain stretches where it's not necessarily visible to the general public? Could it be fixed a different way based upon what an engineer is saying, and or financially more able and efficient for the village than it is? I certainly don't want to say, put a pipe down through the falls over here by the businesses that it did. But is there a place between Fayetteville and Manlius that it could be piped? I know that's like a bad word, so I don't, I'm just saying, like, is there different things that are available to us? I don't know what they are, and I don't know what the cost is. So until I get the conditions and kind of see that, then I would like to proceed with, I think it's a great idea to put it on the National Register.
So if I could just finish my point, I think everything you just explained helped me to understand. Thank you. And when I'm thinking about it, I'm assuming that the engineering report is gonna say, you need to do X, Y, Z. And thing about the point that Mr. Heaton makes is that being on the National Register would position us for funding opportunities. And that's, I just wanted to make sure we're thinking about that. I accept your explanation and understand.
And I agree, and I think that will help us with, may help us with grants in the future and things, but we have to kind of know. I would just want to take it a step I prefer to take it a step at a time to see what it is we're looking at, what it is we need to do, what the cost potentially could be, and then kind of take it a step at a time to start doing the things that need to be done with it immediately. Just like I said with the trees, take the worst and get that taken care of and work our way down to the least of our problems or whatever. So
Do we have any idea of the cost of the project as far as outlined by Mr. Eaton, as far as to do that at all?
we'll have to look into that
I mean,
before
that's
we
all
put
I'm
a
looking for. We
proposal
have to look
together for
I mean,
money. We
I
need to
think
know what
looking
the
at
money
doing the
will be.
maintenance on this and making sure with the maintenance is a good place for us to start to do what needs to be done long term, because I know we can't do long term immediately. But I know that we need to understand what's in front of us in order to really make some hard decisions about what's.
We may be in better
I
shape.
appreciate that.
Right,
And just because I'm factoring this into my head, and we have to have that, we have to have some cost estimates on this, alternative. And, but I just want everyone to know too, that we're talking about like a minimum of $50,000 is our request, so. We'll go back to Mr. Heaton, or you will go back to Mr. Heaton, and if you could get some estimates around what these things cost and plug it in for all of us.
oh, we may want to look at that whole proposal.
No, I have a
too.
question along those lines.
Okay.
And the question is this, if we're, I think that, Casey, you raised a decision point for today. And that is, do we, as a board, like this suggested approach? And if we do, is EDR going to be our consultant on this matter, not just to put a cost estimate together for us that we can use in the application, but to assist us in drafting the application? I know we have one already drafted, but we're taking a slightly different approach. And I know Pat, I worked with Pat. Pat has, and he is an excellent intersection, if you will, of, history preservation as well as contemporary engineering maintenance needs. So, which I think is where we're all at. And, so that's my question. That's my.
I would
question.
be more comfortable with him being part of that application process and knowing what he's talking about in that. Not that you don't all have a lot of information, but I believe that that would be a better.
He's actually very specific into the area we've sort of been interested. That's why I think we need to continue our conversation with him in order to be able to try to put this together, if we can do that or not, and what our costs are, so we have an understanding what we should be requesting.
So you're,
That's the other part. So we don't know exactly what we're going to be. I don't want to just throw a big ballpark number out there. I want to really be
Right.
pretty close, because then that
Okay.
also allows us to do other things to be more real. And that's what we have to do. So that's what I'm looking at.
My answer to your question would be yes, we would be continuing to talk with EDR. Because I think Craig also, there was some things Craig said today that I wasn't aware of. These are the people who know this.
Well, he lives here, he knows it, but it's also, for those who don't know Mr. Heaton, he is a historic preservationist himself. He's made that his lifetime practice. He's practiced at EDR and has spent, I don't know, the last 20 years with a foot in historic preservation and a foot in sustainable engineering, simple way to put it. So
so do we want to request the cost from them to do that too?
I mean, we haven't heard from Danny. I don't know how Danny feels about all this.
Well, I go back to when we first got it. When we first took care of it, Manly shut our water supply off. We supply their pond and they shut us off. All it's living on now is storm.
Oh,
No,
maybe it's
Perry
that's from
Spring-
Perry
no,
Springs.
Perry Springs feeds into the Ledger Canal.
Where?
Oh, I can show you right on the map where. Actually, it's numbered right on number 9.
Yeah, I know, but we just put that goes into the pond in Manlius.
No, it goes from the pond to an underground pipe to the Ledger
And
Canal.
is it flowing?
Yes, I walked by it today.
It was flowing?
Yeah,
Was it flowing, Bobby?
it's spring water, so it constantly.
It was flowing?
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
because for a while they shut it off.
No, I don't know.
It was-
Maybe they were doing maintenance on it. I don't know.
It's flowing now.
Okay, I'll go up and check again. I know where it is.
If you go right behind Stickley.
Get clarity on that.
Yeah,
point
right
would be
behind
really
Stickley.
good.
We put it in.
That runs into our pipe.
We put it in.
Yep.
His hands on.
Yeah.
Are you okay if we
Actually,
hire you
yes.
to start this process for you?
And Dan, if you could walk further on toward,
Can't.
basically,
Yeah. Dan, they did shut off
I'll say
the
it.
Swan Pond. The Swan Pond does not feed that canal anymore.
Oh,
But,
but the big pond.
but Perry Springs does feed it.
Okay, so
I'm gonna have to check it.
all right, I'm
yeah,
gonna,
walk.
Yeah, I will.
a Good chunk
I
of
will,
it.
because at one point they shut it off.
Well, you also see that the water is just a little below the trail where you walk. It's
Right.
it's really high for, that
Yeah, I-
canal wasn't designed to be that high, and so. You know, we just need it to be cleaned out, better flow somehow. It just, an engineer needs to look at it to assess exactly what avenue to
I
take
think we're making.
to get to where.
If you have
that-
something really quick, you're fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, not only is it fed from Perry Springs, but it's also part of the stormwater system.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, that's-
yeah, we
that's
knew
what
that.
I-
And that,
All right, I'm
that
gonna-
adds to the
That's what I-
need.
I'm
Right.
gonna make a motion that, that the application, that the application to, would, I don't know the name of the grant, Sam grant, I don't.
It's not a Sam grant, it's gonna be either crisp or low cap.
Okay, so that the draft application for either crisp or low cap be further revised and refined to follow the recommendations set forth in the email from Mr. Heaton, specifically for B, C, and D. And that trustee Casey and or you've spearheaded this so far, so trustee Casey spearhead and work with Mr. Heaton in obtaining a quote on a report of that nature and also in refining the application. And I understand those in what you've sent us to review is that initially we just need a letter, right? And then if the letter gets accepted, that moves into an application?
No,
Actually, that information developed over time,
Okay.
so. If we
Okay.
just put in a letter, we're not giving them enough
Okay,
to
all right.
assess, so.
So
we-
you
yeah.
just, you and Mr. Heaton can work through all
Yeah.
that. You've got the information, so that's my motion.
All right, move on.
I'll second that.
Second by-
Okay, I wanna know how, this is costing us money.
No,
No,
this is just a motion that we move forward on the application. And that they work
And
in,
the application to the senator,
yes. And
Well,
that
to these
they,
two different,
that we s-
possibly two different
well,
grants.
let's get it straight.
no,
Okay.
it's to the senator, but the senator, the grant system through Senator Ryan's office. Are two different avenues you can take. One is acronym called a CRISP. And the other acronym is called low cap.
Yep, yeah.
I have it here. It's, the SAM grants were replaced 2 years ago with two programs. The Community Resilience Economic Sustainability and Technology Program, CREST, and the Local Community Assistance Program, which is LUOCAP.
And we do not apply to either of those things. We apply to the senator. And the senator, if this should make the cut, that goes from their office and the decision about which funding stream that this would fit best is decided at the Senate Finance Committee. That is my understanding.
So that is my motion, and it is to include that this application has a quote, a scope of
Scope
work
of work and
and
cost.
cost that is developed by Mr. Heaton. So that we have a consultant familiar with this kind of
Work.
project and work. Put a real-time scope of work and cost to it. So that's my motion, Danny. It is not. We can't carry through with any of this unless
Right.
we get some
Let's
money.
forget the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense? I mean, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you're trying to.
Do you have other questions or would you like to modify the motion?
No. The motion was so long, I couldn't even.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't be
made
able to
second,
modify
You
it.
voted aye. That's short. Okay.
Did they vote?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, everybody in favor? I think so. Thank you.
Aye.
Thanks
Aye,
for
aye,
the
aye,
discussion. Thanks for
Thank you.
the patience because
Thank you.
I think we're getting a better, well, a more usable type of thing from our discussions and having the conversations about it.
I appreciate it.
That's moving target.
Can I ask for a small recess?
We're gonna take a quick 5-minute recess for anybody that's used the restroom.
Thank you.
Not calling anybody. So the rest of this should go pretty fast. So next on the agenda is the DPW union contract. This has been ratified by the DPW employees in the union. I sent you kind of a broad strokes as to what changed. I didn't give you the specifics. Does anybody want the specifics? I mean, it was an increase in their hourly rate this year. And for the next 2 years, it's a 3-year contract. We took out the idea that the newly hired employee would only earn, say 85% or 90% of their salary and then be bumped up. We included in some comp time, an extra 8 hours so that he can accumulate 56 hours of comp time. Their longevity pay is anyone that was hired, that got changed from anybody that was hired February 1st, 2019. It got changed to anybody hired before June 1st of 2025 gets the longevity pay. They have to be here 10 years, I think, before they get the longevity pay, so doesn't affect anybody in this particular contract other than those people that are already receiving the longevity pay. Snow removal system, we clarified the 3 employees being on call by the week, so that if they just need a salting run, that those 3 people would cover. If they need the full-blown snow plowing, then everybody has to come in anyway. We did the same in regards to leaf season, so that if there will be a mandatory overtime if and people have an opportunity to sign up for that overtime. But if they don't, then there will be mandatory overtime if we deem it necessary for them to go out and pick up the vacation leave, got reduced basically by 1 year. So as an example, if for 3 weeks of vacation, they would have had to work 6 years. Now it's 5. And we did that for the same after 25 weeks of vacation after 20 years of service, as opposed to 22 years of service. Personal leave, I think we gave them 1 extra day. And work clothing, we adjusted their clothing allowance to what they wanted. And and then the other thing that we add, and we've talked about this as a board, was if we train them and send them to CDL classes, that there's a payback period here. Bobby, I talked to that guy from Casanova, and he said that he took his CDL, like I want to say in Clinton or someplace, and it was like $400 or something. It was a lot less than the union type of program. So I told him he's gonna look for the information, get it to us. So we might have a place that's even, even though there's a payback, it still might be cheaper for us to do it.
Yeah.
He had to drive there 2 days, I think, and went pretty fast or whatever.
Okay, perfect.
So with that, the union, as I mentioned, the union employees have already passed this as far as they voted on it and accepted it. So now it's our turn to accept it. So I have a resolution to read here. Ratifying labor agreement with the Teamsters Local 317, whereas the collective bargaining teams for the Village of Fayetteville and the Teamsters Local 317 have concluded negotiations for a successor collective bargaining agreement covering the period of June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2028 for certain employees within the village's Department of Public Works. Now therefore be it resolved that this Board of Trustees hereby ratifies said agreement and authorizes the expenditure of the necessary funds therefore, and be it further resolved that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to execute said agreement on behalf of the village dated today.
So moved.
Moved.
Second,
Seconded.
if you and Lori and the attorney, you were in on the meetings, right? The attorney, I would definitely, agree with it because I'm not gonna, vote or not vote on something that you and the other people involved in the meetings
I believe everybody was good with
approve,
this.
if you approve.
I feel similarly to Dan. I just would like a copy for me to understand.
You'll get a copy. You can have a copy.
Yeah,
Contract
I
after.
believe you emailed the copy of what you just read, right?
I did not email this
Oh, okay,
because I
yeah,
wasn't sure if I was
yeah.
supposed to.
It's okay, but
That's
yeah.
my first on my own contract. I've been parts of different ones, but
And there,
Yeah.
as such, I don't have them in front of me. There was things they asked for and they did not receive either. So it went fairly well. 3 meetings, I believe, and it was situated.
yeah.
I-
There weren't a ton of requests, but.
And you picked out the highlights, which,
I did, I just
wanna-
didn't send,
wanna know.
again, when I sent the email out, I didn't like put in specifically what the numbers are for their pay or for different things. So I just wasn't sure if I was supposed to do that till everybody voted on it, so that was me in the dark. So, okay.
And I would like
Oh,
to
good.
add one further.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that and coming up with an agreement without having to go into arbitration as we have many other times.
We got it done before June 1st, which is when this takes effect, so with no back pay, no different things that could be a hassle for the office staff and things.
Definitely good news.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I don't know if any of these.
Don't forget to sign it.
Yeah, I will.
Next is the parade marshal. So I called, I'd like to suggest that we ask Leslie and Tom Rotano to be the parade marshals this year. Leslie was involved a lot of years for the tree commission. Tom is a big fan of the DPW and takes care of them pretty well.
Who's that?
Tom Rotano.
Oh,
So I called it, but I didn't get a call back till after a meeting started. So I'm going to ask them first. If they decline, then I'm going to reach out to Fayetteville Cemetery, who has obviously the Veterans Memorial and a lot of veterans buried there.
we're gonna have to bring a keyboard though.
Well, we'll have them, we'll have someone play the national anthem instead of just sing the national anthem this year. Forego a singer. Or we can all sing together. Okay, so I think that's just
We already have a
information.
singer
I don't
lined
know,
up,
we
so
have-
take it easy.
don't have to vote on the trade motion, do we?
No, yeah,
Okay.
no.
Good. Next meeting date. So our next meeting is scheduled for May 26th, which
Oh,
is,
We have to do 12A, which is
Oh,
establish the
12A,
reserve
right.
accounts.
yep, good thing Lori's there today.
Hurry to get to the end.
Yeah, I know. So
Well,
very
I'm trying to
quickly,
help you out.
because we did talk about them, we funded them in the budget, but we have to, pursuant to section C6 of the New York State General Municipal Law, we have to establish the repair reserve and also the employee accrued liability reserve account. So I just need a resolution to resolve everything I said. I'll put it in there pursuant
So
to.
move.
Second,
Any other discussion?
You go for both of them.
Both of them, I'm gonna do
One
two separate
motion.
I'm gonna do two separate
Yeah,
motions.
yeah.
They'll read the same
Right.
thing, just different
Okay.
reserves.
Yeah.
Um,
All in favor?
all right,
So both, right? Everybody's good?
Okay, everybody's good.
Okay. Next meeting date is gonna be May 26th, which
You've
is
got-
Memorial Day.
We gotta do it.
he just had him do it for both, just said, we're just separating it.
I did make comments on it during the budget meeting.
Yeah, but not during this one, so.
Yeah, I know.
We're
Because
good.
I don't have time.
We don't have time.
Trying to get you done.
It's gonna
Dan.
be
You keep
specifically
talking.
used for those purposes.
All right, meeting date, can everybody meet on Tuesday, May 27th, as opposed to Monday, May 26th, which is the holiday?
Yes.
Memorial Day.
Yes.
Okay, so that meeting will be May 27th, 6:00 PM. There's been discussion, and we're just gonna say this really quick. Discussion about our meeting times being 11 in the morning and 6 at night. I think we're just gonna go back to 6 at night, but I think June 11th, we're going to keep the 11 o'clock meeting. The end of June, the next meeting will be 6 in the evening, and then July and August. We have 2 meetings scheduled for those 2 months. Typically, we may only have one, but they would be at 6 at night, and then probably beginning in September. We're just gonna go back to the 6 o'clock at night meeting time. And there's different reasons for that, somewhat inconvenient for some people, but maybe more convenient for others, so.
So June 9th is June
Good.
11th.
June 9th will be 11. And then going forward after that, they will be 6,
Everything will be at 6. Okay.
unless we decide to change
Yeah.
it differently. Okay,
But we don't have those dates for July and August, correct? Just wanna
I
make sure.
usually, yeah, I don't have them yet. but I-
Okay.
We
Just
can
wanna-
do it at the next meeting.
Let's
Yeah.
decide here.
Do that the next time.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. Any trustee updates, and then we have to go into a quick executive session.
I pass.
I'll do this quickly because we've got a lot of events coming up here. And so we've already arranged for the Memorial Day parade that Reverend Dubois will be actually doing the benediction, and also for the 1st of June, which is going to be Pride Month, in our next meeting, we will be doing the proclamation for that. We are going to be sharing and partnering with the Gage House. And I want to thank Casey for making that introduction, because I'm meeting with them this week also in order to finalize that along the way. So I just wanted to touch base with that. The other thing is we're actually looking to expand, and we're having conversations with the people who are participating in our kitchen composting. And we're looking to try to handle that so that we can do better, handle more, and increase the program to reduce our trash. Our trash is really what it comes down to. So that's the other part. I'll leave that simple at this point, because we're still working our way through all the numbers. Thank you.
No, just moving along with the zoning update effort. Committee's ready to garden, and senior center is still.
Okay, yeah,
Boat and float, boat festival, don't forget, get in your kayaks. Also, I request to put a sign in the park down below, having to do with this.
okay,
That's
And
great.
not have somebody take it out. I mean, not have it pulled by the ghost person. Having to do with this.
Okay.
Because it's 200 years. Also, the rec committee needs some guidance on. Will there be a tent, and also is the time gonna change for the Fayetteville Festival? They don't meet during July and August, so they were wondering if we could come up with what will take place Okay. Before their last meeting in the summer, which will be in June.
Yeah, we want to put something out soon. We are working on that.
We should know by our next meeting for sure.
Yeah, because most of the groups that participate may be on hiatus during the summer, so we obviously will put something out soon.
Thank you.
Okay, Lori or Jen? Hey,
Okay.
Karen? Okay, so we need an executive session. It should not take long about personnel matters. And it can include Lori. I don't think Ted needs to be there, do you, Lori?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. I think we're good. Just
So move.
move the second, all in favor? Okay. Want to come in?